Eric, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Look,
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are scratching their heads here trying to understand why this is an issue. Can you explain this? And by the way, was this your idea, her idea? Did she come to you? How did this get discussed?
Well, first off, we looked at what was going on. The bill was only tabled today with 4 days left in the session, so we didn't know even the content until a few hours ago. As you rightly pointed out before the advertisement, there's 19 bills right now in front of the National Assembly with 12 hours left of work to do. So that's the first problem we had. Why are they tabling a bill when they know that they're not going to adopt the majority of the bills that they're already studying? The second thing is I had the chance today with my Thé Blanchette Vizina to meet the parents of the young kid, the 15-year-old kid who died 2 years ago after drinking a Red Bull and having some medication. I was very shocked to learn that they were never aware that there was, that caffeine was a problem with the medication of their kid. The physician never told them when they gave them the prescription. When they arrived at the drugstore, they never told them that there was an issue, that you couldn't have both together, that it was dangerous. And it's only afterwards, after he died, that they figured it out. That makes no sense. Even if we ban the sale of the drink for the 15 years old and younger, it's not going to solve all the problem, obviously. So we have to also inform the population. There's much more than just banning. It's always easy for a politician to say, "Oh, there's a problem, we're going to ban something." It shows well and it's good before the election. But we have to go to the roots of the problem, and the roots of the problem are much deeper than the fact that we're banning or not the Red Bull. And on top of that, 89% of the caffeine that is consumed by the youth right now is not with the energy drinks. So how could we make sure that we inform people properly, that people are responsible vis-a-vis what they consume? And I think it's a much larger debate, and there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And we cannot, rush a bill without debates, without even reading the bill like the four other parties wanted to do. Fortunately, I think now, today, when I met the parents, we also met the MNA of Quebec Solidaire, Jérôme Rivard-Clich, who was the first one to bring that bill up at the National Assembly. And he agreed with us that there needs to be some consultation, and we'll put pressure in the next few hours on the minister, so there could be at least a little bit of consultation next week before we adopt such an important bill.
So I guess my question will be to your point about informing and educating, which makes perfect sense. Can't we do both? Can't we, ban it
Absolutely.
And at the same time do this?
But the bill doesn't talk about the education and information, unfortunately. It's just about banning the energy drinks. So I think that's another problem. And it's not like it's a last-minute thing and they needed to rush it 4 days before it's ending. They had the report that they're basing the justifications on. They had it for 3 years on their table, and the government has been procrastinating for 3 years, and now they're trying to blame the opposition because the bill might not be adopted because they introduced it too late and they don't want to talk about it. So it's a very weird situation, and I understand people scratching their head and wondering what are we doing, but I think that we need to inform them and explain it very well, because when you adopt a bill afterwards, it's tough to modify, and it could take time, and there's always a negative effect if you rush a bill that could happen later. So that's why there's 3 lectures, that's why there's committees, that's why there's amendments, that's why there's a whole process, and we cannot escape that process just based on emotions. I mean, we have to be rational with that, and we need to make sure we study the bill properly in the next few days.
So to your point, I'm kind of curious. I don't fully understand. What would be the downside of going ahead and just simply saying, okay, we're going to do this? We're not the only country, by the way. This is already happening in the UK, some other countries in Europe too, where it's banned. Where's the downside here, Eric?
Well, the UK is studying the issue. They didn't adopt it yet. And there's not one single legislation among the 50 states or the 10 provinces in North America that has adopted it. So our case is like, if we want to move forward and ban the energy drinks, aren't we going to bring a false sense of security? Because the guy, he was 15 when he died. He could have bought the same bottle at 16 years old. And it would have been as dangerous. So don't we need to inform people and educate them first and foremost? And if we adopt such a bill, Are we saying that, educating and informing is not as important since we adopted a bill just to ban the energy drinks without doing our job and making sure the physicians and the pharmacists and the health experts are doing their job? So I think there's a huge, and unfortunately we're talking about it today. It's a good thing. There's a lot of parents today that I was doing interviews and were texting me back. Their own kids are taking the same medication and they had no clue that energy drinks were dangerous for their kids. So it's important that people get aware, and I think that's the first thing. Unfortunately, more and more people are going to be aware because we're having such a debate right now in the National Assembly.
So are you saying, if I understand right, that if this new bill, which is appearing and not going to get passed, although I did hear that your M&A is considering simply abstaining and letting it go through, is that accurate?
Well, what we're saying is that, if there is consultation and if there's a minimum of due diligence by the government, we have one M&A out of 125. We don't want to obstruct democracy, but for us, it's not going to solve the whole problem. But we're not going to deprive them from the right of voting on the bill. So we're going to do our job. We're going to present our position. We're even tabling a memoir next week to make sure that everybody understands where we stand on the issue, and we have a physician who's going to explain everything about the impacts of it. But we don't want to obstruct democracy. That's never been our purpose.
Okay, so again, I will ask the question, if the government goes ahead and reworks this bill to include informing, education, whatever, you'd be okay with this?
Well, if we have some consultations and if we hear the experts and if we put everything in, how can we do that in 4 days? That's why I also asked the minister to extend the parliamentary session to January 19th, because usually the National Assembly sits much longer, almost until the Saint Jean-Baptiste.
June 19th. This year,
they prorogued the House 3 weeks, and now they're shortening it by a week. So it makes no sense. Okay. There's no wonder why there's so many bills in front of the National Assembly right now.
Okay, one last thing I want to bring up, and I know we're going to be talking to someone from the Liberal Party later in the show, this idea of extending Bill 101 to adult ed and vocational courses. The Liberals are now suggesting they will vote against this. What's your Conservative Party stand on this bill?
Well, look, we're in favor of promoting French, and we're in favor of people going to CJAD and universities in French. That being said, you cannot go by, we think by incentives are good to do that, to make sure that there's more people that are attracted to French education, but you cannot deprive, adults from their right to choose if they want to study in a French or English higher education institution. So I think that this bill is a little bit too much, and we're depriving people, adults especially, of their basic rights. So we're not going to vote in favor of that bill if that bill survives, because I'm not even sure that we're going to have time to even vote on that bill. So
you would vote against it if it did come up?
Absolutely.
Okay. Eric, I appreciate the time. Always do. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Eric Duhaime, leader of the Conservative. Look, I think, to be fair, again, I was going to bring up statistics here. Maybe we don't need them. I think everybody knows, and if you don't, energy drinks are a problem. They contain massive amounts of caffeine. And as I said, he mentioned the UK, is still considering this. I think the UK consideration here is making it under 18 versus under 16, but other countries have gone ahead and done this. But it's kind of hard to argue against his point, right? Why don't we inform and educate kids at the same time as simply going ahead and banning this? We told, with tobacco, you couldn't buy cigarettes because cigarettes cause cancer. We let people know. We didn't just, hope that nobody would die from it. So in the case of energy drinks, where we know that they can say, 300 milligrams of caffeine, where the recommended allowance in a day for a teenager is 85. So literally you drink one can, and you've already gone almost 4 times over your limit every day. So clearly something needs to happen here. But if it's packaged along with information and education, I'm with him. Let's go ahead and do that. The old, saying, we can walk and chew gum at the same time here, right? We can ban it. We can also educate. So let's see what happens. And to his point, by the way, I think he accidentally said they're going to extend the session to January 19th. He meant June 19th because, of course, they're supposed to get up and then begin their vacation, as he said a week early. That's only June 12th. And there's no way all these bills, all 19 of them, are going to get through. So we'll have to see. There may be a lot of talk right now about things that never even end up coming up in this term.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers. Powered by North by Northeast Music Festival. Taking place June 10th to 14th across Toronto. iHeart New Music. Stream now, online, on your smart speaker, and preset on the free iHeartRadio app.